Okay. In 1996, as part of CEO, we did our first series of studies. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Um,
Yes.
we studied 3 public universities as part of the California system. We studied Berkeley, Irvine, and San Diego. At that time, we just got started. We didn't quite know what we were doing, so we got data just on those that were enrolled. And this was part of the effort to pass Prop 209. What we found in 1996 was there were huge statistical gaps in test scores and grades among the students. For example, there was a 150-point gap in verbal scores alone at Berkeley when you compared blacks and whites. The gap was even larger when you compared blacks and Asians. I mean, on math. I mean, and we found this over and over and over. And at that point, we only had students, so we didn't really know what the profile was of those who were rejected. But we took this as enough evidence that they were actively promoting racial preferences for some groups over others. Okay, our later research got better over time, and we got the whole applicant data set for all these other universities. So we could compare the students that were rejected versus the students that were admitted. And here again, we found a lot of racial preferences, especially at places like the University of Virginia, the University of Michigan before they banned it, University of Wisconsin, on and on, the major flagship universities. Now, what we also found in a few cases was that there was more preference given to race than was given to in-state over out-of-state. In other words, taxpayers were paying, so their kids couldn't get in, but out-of-state students of certain races and ethnicities could go. And this was not made public until some of our studies were put out there, because the universities don't want you to know this. One of the interesting things we found over and over was gender was not a major factor when you considered test scores and grades. In other words, women were not given special preferences over men when the more meritocratic the admission procedure was. In other words, women, the majority of women who are in college, especially even at the more elite places, they are there because there's a greater reliance on merit. What does this mean in terms of Prop 16? Well, I think, I may be wrong, but there'll probably be some kind of crowding out effect, where if you have, too many women, are they going to figure, oh my gosh, we have 56% of our student body are women. This gives the universities the okay to discriminate against women and quote unquote rebalance. And they will at the same time rebalance on the basis of race. And I have heard of other universities where gender is a factor, but they prefer men, which was kind of not where it was, 20 years ago. So since race is the largest demographic factor, we have to really seriously consider what the implications and how much is this going to hurt women as young women in the process of applying to college. And in-state residents don't necessarily have that much more of an advantage when applying to the UC system. And even though the courts, and Gail Harriet knows much more about this, even though the courts have allowed race to be used as a factor, they cannot use it as quotas, and they can't just use it, well, they're not supposed to use it as one of the largest factors when they consider admissions. But in most cases, more often than not, race is one of the largest factors that these admission committees use. So that's the sum of my research. So, thank you.